Again, time for taking you home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate every Thursday, every Saturday morning on KNSI. Thursdays at 7:23, Saturdays at 7:50. Be sure you start that home search with VoigtJohnson.com. Brand new person, Tina Scepaniak is with us this morning. Great to meet you.
Hi, good morning.
Tell me about you, Tina Scepaniak. Have you always been a realtor since the age of 5, or when did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I decided in the recession in 2008 it would be a good time to jump into the business.
Oh, really? Timing is everything, right?
Right.
But you didn't have the crystal ball. You didn't know that was going to come along.
No, and it really actually was a good time to get into the business because the whole structure of the business was really changing.
Right.
And even realtors at that time that thought they had it figured out had to learn a whole new way of doing business.
Listen, as a homeowner, we thought we had it figured out and then saw that whole crazy stuff go on, you know?
Right.
It took a long time to recover after that.
Right.
No doubt. So what did you do before you were a realtor?
Yeah, actually, I was a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
Mostly.
Very cool. When you decided that you were going to be a realtor, how did you decide that VoigtJohnson was the place to hang your hat?
Yeah, so in 2008, I actually started with a bid brokerage in town.
Okay.
That was corporate, and Heidi and Brandon had worked there as well. When they were branching out to start VoigtJohnson, I decided that was a better fit for me. I just liked their business model and how they did business, and it's been amazing.
You know, I understand exactly what you're saying. I have done that corporate radio thing. It's so nice to be back at Leighton Broadcasting because it's family.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Heidi had used the phrase, and Brandon did too, a boutique real estate company. What does that mean?
Yeah, I really feel like they put the customer first in all aspects. It doesn't come down to how much money you're bringing in as a realtor or, you know, hitting the bottom line. It really comes down to how you're servicing the customer and making the reputation going forward in town. Their whole motto is make a difference.
Yeah. I think also the fact that, at least from my opinion, from my experience of working with you folks, when you keep it local, it really makes a big difference, doesn't it?
Right. And I'm not a salesperson. So if I was going into sales, you know, and working as a realtor only to make a quota, that wouldn't work for me.
Wait a minute. You're not a salesperson, but yet you are a salesperson.
Well, I bring options to people and help them strategize and determine what works best for them.
Yeah, customer care is pretty darn important, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the obstacles that you run into in today's real estate market, right? We were just talking last week about inventory is super tight. Right. How do you work around that stuff?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ways that sometimes people overlook is working with a local lender that can really just see someone's big picture and give them all of the options at hand. Sometimes a 30-year conventional loan isn't right for the buyer. Putting them into, you know, an ARM instead, or depending on what their circumstances are, how long they're going to stay in that home.
Sure.
Can paint a different picture.
Okay, now I just have to throw this in there. You are not a lender, you're a real estate person, right?
Right,
You're not a tax professional, you're a realtor.
Right.
So again, that's just, we have to throw those disclaimers in there just like that. When you talk about working with a local lender, you know, again, I think that's so important because you may be playing softball with that person, right? Your kids may be at the same choir concert with that person. And when a local lender has the opportunity to know you and understand you, that can make a big difference.
Yeah, it can also make a difference when things come up in a transaction and you need to call them on Sunday at 8 o'clock in the evening and whether or not they answer the phone.
Yeah, exactly right. Things that I really love are numbers and statistics. You know, again, last week we were talking with Brandon about the inventory, how that whole thing shakes out. I know that you have some other numbers that we should talk about as well. So go ahead, hit me with your stats.
Yeah, I guess some of the stats I find interesting is the average American moves about 12 times in their lifetime.
Okay, that's about right. That's about where I am.
Right, and so each one of those times the market is probably different because the market is always changing.
Well, we talked about this last week. My first home that I bought, the interest rates were 20%. That was back in the 80s.
Right.
Okay. They're not that high now. I don't think they're going to go that high. But you're seeing some challenging things right now, I would assume, as a realtor with higher interest rates.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are adjusting to the interest rate at
Yeah.
this point. I think that they will come down eventually, and each time somebody buys, the market is different. Right now, the average age for the first-time home buyer is 36.
That surprises me. I would think that it would be lower than that, at least, and traditionally I would think, gosh, you get married in your 20s, that's the first thing you're going to do before you have kids and all that kind of stuff. I would think maybe that 36-year-old age may be a reflection of how tight the market is.
Yeah,
What do you think?
very well could be.
Yeah. All right, what else have you got?
Well, with COVID, one of the biggest changes I think is people deciding where they want to live and what's
Yeah.
important to them.
I'm glad you brought that up because you mentioned that you started your career in real estate back in 2008 when the big crash happened. You have seen a couple of things in your short span of being a realtor.
Right.
Not only that, but here we go with COVID again. How did you deal with all that stuff?
Yeah, I think the way people wanted to live in their home, where they wanted to live, all of that had changed, and working with that client and understanding what was important to them, if they wanted acreage, if they wanted to move to the lake, if they needed office space, if they're now working from home.
I was going to say working from home, technology, you've got to have that kind of stuff, got to have that access to all those kinds of things. Not to mention showing houses got to be really weird too, didn't it?
It sure did, yeah.
So how did that whole thing work? What did you have to do during COVID to show a house, to make a sale?
Yeah, we did a lot of videos,
Okay.
that became
Technology again.
right, technology, bringing that in and changing the way people had to view things.
I just remember open houses were the standard, right? That's what everybody always did, open houses, and all of a sudden they're gone.
Yeah, they're coming back.
Good.
Yeah.
I like that. When the rules were there for COVID, remember having a mask up and all that kind of stuff? And how has that changed since we have kind of relaxed a little bit? Open houses, one of the ways, right?
Right.
Do we still make appointments, and are homeowners still as concerned about people coming into their houses like they used to be?
Yeah, I really haven't experienced any of the hangover from COVID going into showings at this time.
That's a great way to look at it, the hangover from COVID,
Right.
because it's everywhere,
Right.
right? That's really cool that you're not running into that here in the business of real estate. Tina, it has been a delight meeting you, and I'm glad that you're part of the Taking You Home with VoigtJohnson real estate crew. Thanks for coming in today.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, folks, here's what you need to know. Taking You Home with VoigtJohnson Real Estate every Thursday morning at 7:23, Saturday mornings at 7:50 here on KNSI. I lied, one more thing. How about a phone number, Tina, if people want to reach out to you?
Yeah, sure. So Tina at 320-293-8849.
Don't forget, folks, start your home search at VoigtJohnson.com, AM 1450, FM 99.3, KNSI.